And man, this guy just caught my eye, and I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, man, you all right?" And he just looked at me like that blank kind of stare, and I could just tell that nothing was all right in the spirit. And I just told him, I'm like, "Yo, man, God loves you, bro." And then all of a sudden, he just started busting out in tears. And I asked him, like, "Let me pray for you." And then I prayed for him. Then after we prayed, he just started to tell me that he actually just got done with a conversation with his mom about God. And so for him to come across someone else representing God after a conversation about God, that was just a confirmation for him to be like, "Yo, God is real, man." And so it's a cool story. He can use you guys too. I know Gage is stepping out, telling people about Jesus, dude. But anyways, we got everyone here. Like that blank kind of awesome. We're gonna kick it off with some music.
just want you and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you and nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you. 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 Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you. I just want you. I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you.
Cool, guys. Hey, so I know this is kind of weird. I got speaking to the microphone just for the video, um, but that's all right. I feel like because it's such a small group, let's just gather around real quick. Y'all can sit on the tables. Um, where's my wife? She's gone. She's inside. That's all right. But we just want to have like a just down to earth conversation. Who was here last week? Y'all were here last week. So what we talked about last week was just what Jesus went through during that time, and now I just feel like there's another step that we have to know, because we know what Jesus did, we know what he went through, we know what Christianity is about. That's just like the small steps, but sometimes like we ask ourselves like, man, what do we do next? Like, am I the only person that asked that question? Like, what do I do next? Like, I know that Jesus died for me, but how do I walk this life out? Like, what do I have to do? What steps do I have to take? How do I continue in the walk? How do I continue in the faith? Right? Does anyone ask that question, or is that just me? Yeah. Yeah, for real, because a lot of times, especially in life, we get caught up in this repetitiveness, right? It's like, I know you guys aren't in school now, but I know that every single one of us have an agenda. We wake up early in the morning and we start to go to work and we finish work. I know a lot of you guys are working in the summertime, and then we come here tonight, or if it's a Thursday night, we go back home, we eat dinner, or we hang out with one of our friends. We have this schedule, we have this loop. But sometimes it's like, doesn't that like feel pointless sometimes? Like, man, I'm doing a lot of nothing for nothing, right? It's like there's no purpose in that schedule. And so when we're going through these loops through the schedule, it's like almost like walking in a desert. Have you ever guys drove to Las Vegas before? Yeah, it's kind of like my wife and I. We just went to Vegas a couple weeks ago, and it's just a whole lot of nothing. But we were in an RV, and then the AC broke, and then it was a whole lot of more nothing because we were sweating, and we're like, oh, when are we gonna get there? And like, it's just that's what it feels like, though, right? It's like we can compare our repetitive nights, our repetitive lives to that desert, to walking in the desert. Because when we're walking in the desert, we don't really see like an end goal. We don't really see like an end destination, right? We just feel all the pressure. We feel all the sweat. We're dehydrated. We're thirsty. It's like we're strong enough to continue to walk, but it feels like we're carrying this anchor because we don't see the goal or we don't have this hope that's driven inside of us to continue to run in the desert. And I don't know if you guys ran in the desert, but one time I played basketball in Las Vegas, like outside, and it was just hot. Like, I don't know what I was doing with my life, but I was just like tired and I was exhausted. I didn't have any water. I had to walk all the way over to the other side to get water, and I was just feeling hopeless. I was like, man, I feel so weak. And we sometimes we get caught up in those desert moments, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, desert moments. What I just want to ask you guys, what's a desert moment for you guys? Okay, find a way to figure it out. What about you guys? No, I feel you. What about a desert life where we can compare it to our daily schedules? Right? Because let's just take a look back. I don't know if you guys remember, but like what was it? 2 months ago? I think it was last year. Or no, in January. I talked about how the Israelites were walking in the desert for 40, what was it? It had to be 40 years, right? Rachel, you know the Bible inside and out. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no. 40 years. I'm just kidding, Rachel. No, but if you guys remember, if you guys don't know anything about the Old Testament, just know that the Israelites were God's chosen people, right? And so they escaped out of Egypt, and then when they escaped out of Egypt because of Moses, because of God's work through Moses, they were on a 40-year, what could have taken them like 11 days or 6 days. I don't remember. It didn't have to take them 40 years to get to that destination. It could have taken them 11 days or 6 days to get to wherever their destination was. And at that destination, it was the promised land. And so, if you guys know what the promised land is, it's that land that was flowing with milk and honey, right? I always question God. I'm like, man, was that land really flowing with like milk and honey, like in the sky? Like, that's just my crazy imagination. But when I was thinking about that, I'm like, man, these Israelites had everything, yet they still had a place in their heart to complain, a place in their heart to, not see the purpose, a place in their heart to not realize that they literally have everything, that they literally was saved from out of that darkness, out of that trap. Because I don't know if you guys know, but when they were in Egypt, man, these guys were like brutally worked all the way through. Like some of them were probably beaten and worked to death. You know what I mean? And like after they were beaten, they kept working. And if even if they were old, so imagine like maybe a 60 or 70-year old still working after working all of his life, and maybe he slipped up and then he got beat up, and then he told him, yeah, you got to keep working. So these are what the Israelites gone through in Egypt when they were slaves, when they were building the pyramids, when they were doing the Pharaoh's work. These guys were just tired. You know what I mean? And like they were hopeless. And then all of a sudden they were free. And then after they were free, it's like they still had scars. You know what I mean? It's like, so for instance, my wife and I, how can I relate? We have a couple bunnies in the house, and one of them's name is Biggie. And Biggie, uh, he, we open up the cage door for him, and he doesn't realize that he's free because he's so used to that cage, right? And it's almost like an elephant. You guys heard that stories with the elephant where they're chained up when they're a young one, and then when they grow up, you can unleash them from the chain, and they still stand there because they still think that that chain is still on them, even though that they're free, even though that the chain is taken off of them, right? You guys heard that story, right, with the elephants? So this is probably what the Israelites was going through when they were saved from Egypt, right? And so let's fast forward into 2020. Sometimes in life, we realize that we're free, right? I know you guys heard the good news and you guys know that in your inside of your hearts. You guys continue to show up week after week after week, and you guys know that you guys are free. But the struggle is that past life, that scar life, that stuff that we're so used to is kind of like right behind us, and it's kind of like dragging us down. It's kind of like wearing a heavy backpack and we're having to walk with it, and it's like breaking our backs because we carry this burden. We carry whatever scars that we're carrying, not realizing that we are actually free. You know what I mean? And I know that from firsthand experience because once I was 18 when I accepted Jesus into my life. But after I was saved, I didn't realize the things that I was doing wrong until like my eyes opened up and I was like, oh, it's probably not okay to do drugs. Like I continued to do pills, I continued to drink, I continued to go to partying, even though I was quote unquote saved, I wasn't living it out because I didn't realize that I was free, right? And that's the dangers of what can happen if we don't realize that the cage is already open. We get to step out of that cage. You know what I mean? And so, just for an example, I started when first started this Christianity life. I was like, man, what is my purpose? What do I do with this life? Where do I go? What's my next steps? And I had all this baggage on top of my back, and I was surrounded in a community, a healthy community, where they were just pouring out Jesus into my life, even though that they knew that I was that troublemaker. You know what I mean? I was a kid who got kicked out of school. I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. I can talk about all day, but they knew that I was up to no good. And one guy who took me along by his side, he just loved me through it out. Because I feel like a lot of us, especially as young kids, as young adults, I'm still young, my wife and I are still young. Um, she just had a birthday, turned 23. I feel like a lot of times when we carry this baggage, we don't want to admit it to someone who's got it all together because that person, we feel like they're going to judge us and they're going to tell us what's wrong and they're going to tell us what's right. You know what I mean? And then when they tell us, when we admit it, we feel ashamed. And I had experiences with that where I opened myself up to a leader at that time and I told him, I'm like, yo, man, I feel like it's too late, but I've been doing drugs, bro. And then he just had this stern look on his face. And of course, it was out of love, but I didn't know at the time. And I thought it was out of judgment. And then right then and there, he disciplined me. You know what I mean? He took me out of leadership position and he took me basically to the lowest position to be a servant. And then from there, you know, everybody around the community knew that I was doing drugs, knew that I was backsliding, whatever it was. But that community, on top of what the enemy was doing in my head, was building up a wall instead of building a bridge. You know what I mean? And so where my heart is at in Christianity life and what it is, I want to tell you guys that God builds a bridge and he doesn't build up a wall when we admit that we are wrong to him. You know what I mean? Because we can admit that we're wrong to our brother, to our sister, to our father, to a preacher, to me, whatever it is. We can admit that we're wrong and we still have that feeling of judgment, even though if you come up to me and admit that you're wrong, judge you, I'll build that bridge and I'll be like, I'll meet you where you at. But when I meet you where you at, you have a change in your heart because you never experienced that before. So when God meets us where we're at in our troubled times, we're like, whoa, this is totally different. This is like, oh, I don't know what to do because usually I'm being punished right now, right? So many times in my life, I was punished for all the things that I did wrong. Right? And that was because I didn't know God's love. And 1 John 4:16 through 17, I think it talks about how God's love casts out fear. And so when we realize that God is a good God, God is a good Father, he doesn't judge us, he doesn't punish us. He already did that to his son when he sent his son, when you guys did that exercise with your arms out, all the pain that he went through, he already put all his wrath on his son Jesus so that way we don't have to go through that. And now Jesus is a bridge who doesn't condemn us, who doesn't put guilt, who doesn't put shame on us. Now he's that bridge where we're able to admit our sins to him and he is just to forgive us. That's God's love. But when we grow up in an environment where all we're told all of our lives that we're wrong, that we're punished, that we're disciplined, it can be hard for our eyes to open up and realize that God's love is actually a love that doesn't condemn. Because most of our lives, we were condemned, right? Most of the lives, we were told what is right and what is wrong. And most of the time, the people who told us what is right and what is wrong, usually they would say, don't do as I do, but do as I say. Which meant for them that they were doing the wrong things too. So we realize that all of us as a broken community, that even the people who are telling us what is right and what is wrong, they don't have it all together. We realize that us having it not all together, we can relate, and through that relationship, we're able to comfort each other when these hard these hard topics are addressed. When our scars are brought up to the light. I know when I was growing up in church, I never wanted to admit my stuff to the preacher. Right? I mean, that's just how real it was for me, because I was like, this guy is way too good. I don't want to feel judged, right? That God feel guilty after we do it, whatever that is, after that loop, that's the desert season, right? That's what the Israelites were going through. And what I mean by that is when they were going through the desert, they kept doing stuff wrong, and they kept repenting, they kept changing, and then it ended up being this loop, this circle. And I don't know about you guys, but that was the first couple. I don't know how long it took me for my eyes to open up and realize that I don't have to go through that circle, that there's actually a breakthrough, that there's